Hi there, this is Jim Tolles, and today I felt like talking about fearing wisdom. It sounds kind of a strange thing, right? Why would you fear wisdom? Wisdom is supposed to be helpful and to teach you things, to live your life. But we live in a society that's really deluded of wisdom, and it's so caught up in frivolous things that the minute we hear something real, it can be very startling. And the more we're caught up in things that are frivolous and really useless, or even harmful, when somebody starts to share wisdom or you meet wisdom for the first time, it can be more than startling. It can be scary. It can be terrifying. Because usually what it's doing is showing you that you're out of alignment with your life. I mean, it can be worse than just that. That's a very neutral term to say, out of alignment. And I use neutral terms like that on purpose because we're trying to get away from the good-bad duality that most people live in, right? It's like, this is good, this is bad. You know, if I'm out of alignment, it's terrible, I'm going to die. It's like, no, out of alignment just means you're out of alignment. You know, things may break down at some point in your life, or they may not. It may not be as fulfilling, however, until you really connect with yourself. But wisdom is like a light in the room. It just shows you what's there. And that's the reason why people come to spiritual teachers, is to find wisdom. But what's interesting about this is it's not even to find somebody else's wisdom. Ultimately, it's to find your own. Like, you have it. It's already there. When things resonate that I or any other spiritual teacher or any other person, it doesn't have to be a spiritual teacher to hear wisdom. There's wisdom in everything. Because ultimately it's in you. What you're hearing, you know, when you hear wisdom is in you. It's a resonance like, ah, that's right. What is that ah? What is that resonance? That's you resonating. Too often we get caught up in the external and say, well, that external thing did it, so they've got the wisdom over there, so what's in your pocket? It's like, no, 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 no. Not in my pocket. Look in yours. See what's in your pocket. See the wisdom you already have. So really, fearing wisdom isn't actually fearing an external source. It's actually fearing an internal source. And this really kind of goes back to the real problem that most people live in, this sense of separation and this ego identities that people get lost in. They start to segment themselves into these different pieces. And they're afraid to look at all the different pieces. And they're afraid to realize that there are a bunch of different pieces. And they're just afraid and hurt, and then people start to get themselves numb. They get numb through doing tons of work to try to stay busy so they never think about what's going on. And then they can't sleep at night and wonder why. And then they start taking painkillers, and they start doing drugs, or you take, you know, more sleep medication, and all these things start to build on, right? This huge, huge pile of different things. And if something really breaks down that's really, really painful in life, like a marriage or something like that, people can get even more self-destructive to try and hide from that issue, whatever it was. I mean, something can be very simple that happens early in life. It's just a sliver, but over time, if it's left untended, you know, you have to amputate a leg, or you could die from infection. That's the interesting thing about coming into our deeper spiritual awareness, our natural awareness, is things actually become much easier to heal. But initially, there's a lot of big shifts that people go through, especially if there's an awakening, for coming to the spiritual path, because suddenly, for the first time, you're looking at an absolute mess in your house, right? That's the light of wisdom. You turn the light switch on, and suddenly everything everywhere is just a mess. And the confusion people make is like, well, because I turned the light on, you know, it's the light's fault. How ridiculous is that, right? But this is what we do. We say, oh my God, this stupid light, right? In this case, the stupid light will be like the teacher, or it could be your psychologist, it could be a lot of different people. It could just be that friend who finally sits you down and says, you have a drinking problem and you need help. Right? And then suddenly you have to realize what it's done to your life. And then, you know, for a while you want to blame the friend for what's their, you know, they think they're so much better than I am, and yada yada, and all the defense mechanisms. If there's one piece to this particular video I encourage you to look at, is your defense mechanisms, right? What are the things that come in response anytime you start to get close to truth, when something starts to sound true? It's usually what happens is something sounds true, you're scared of it, and then you want to attack or run away. That's that fight or flight mechanism. And that's part of, you know, something we all have to rewrite and recode inside ourselves. And that usually starts with that being neutral. Ultimately, the more we let go, we drop into the space of love, and we can hear things of all sorts, you know, shared with us. You know, things that are angry, things that are upset, things that are loving, things that are pleasurable. You know, and we can come from a space of love. But usually the first place everyone has to start is to just go to neutral as best they can, where they don't immediately react if they don't like what they hear. That's the first part of being able to embrace wisdom. If you don't start to do that, then every time something, you know, true comes by, you're not ready to handle it, then you just run away or get upset and get angry at the person and try to drive them off. But it still doesn't change the reality. And that's important to keep coming back to, is to the reality that things are already a mess. It was just a light in the room. It just showed what was already in the room. A lot of the path is about healing, especially right now on this planet, because so much pain has been unaddressed. It won't necessarily stay that way. And for some people, you know, I know your parents and you really want to raise your kids in a conscious way, you're going to change some of that for them because you're doing your own inner work and you're healing yourself. You can come to parenting in a more mindful way, so your children have more of these tools of knowing, you know, when pain comes up, oh, I don't have to be scared, I can address it in a more mindful way. And, you know, these are just simple little lessons that build up over time. You know, you don't sit your child down and make them meditate for an hour and a half. That's just crazy. But the ways that you interact with other people, your children learn just by watching you and being around you. And over time, you know, how you talk to them, the spaces of love that you talk to them, and showing them different ways to respond to different situations. It really isn't just hiding children from the world. You can't do that. That's not how life is. And I think some people try to do that, and they kind of try to do it with homeschooling. And regardless of how school systems are set up, like I know there's a lot of major issues that need to be addressed, especially in this country, around how we're schooling kids, which is really a school system based out of kind of the 19th or 18th centuries and how it's set up. But as I said, that's a whole other topic. But, you know, you can't hide your children away from life. Life is here. What's more important is how you show them that they can deal with difficult situations and not be scared of them as they come up, and to embrace wisdom in their lives. But that always starts with you. It always starts with you. Right? Everybody really does learn from being, from energy, and the more you're grounded in that space of inner presence and calm, the more you can hear. Because a lot of what scares people, to me, is like the other side of resonance that I'm always talking about. Like, everybody knows what the stuff that feels true, that resonates and feels good, is like. We all like that. But there's another kind where something someone says feels true, and in that feeling, it hits something inside you. But it's not the external hitting, it's the internal part. That internal part that said, aha, that's right. And it kind of it's like this feeling of running to connect with another, but I ran into something. And then that vibration is where that fear comes up, that anger, whatever that issue is, that inner part of you that responded to some wisdom that you heard just hit and was like, whoa, I don't like that. What's that about? And the what's that about is the question that needs to happen next. It's like if suddenly fear arises, anger arises, sadness arises, the pause, the return to neutrality is critical. And then you can question and say, what is this? And maybe you get an answer, maybe you don't. And each time you feel that kind of jitteriness or whatever it is it feels like for you, just pause. Be like, take a breath. What is this? What is there to fear here? Because like I often tell this to my students, like if you don't like something I'm saying, it's like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to listen to it. All that's happening right now is there's air coming through my throat, out of my mouth. And because we all kind of an agreed on set of words and terms and concepts, sort of, it's not exactly the same. That's part of the reason I'm always talking about definitions, because everybody uses different definitions. You know, but they're mostly the same, so you have certain impressions of what I'm saying. Of course, there's an energetic level to me and how I'm connecting, and even in this video, there's an energy that's also moving. But for the most part, it's air. So what's there to get upset about? But it's funny, you see this, like people getting so upset about words. What is it that's getting so upset? It's the ego, and the ego is trying to defend something. It's always trying to defend something. So whenever fear arises, when somebody's speaking something that feels true, when somebody's coming from a space of wisdom, it's really important to give yourself a pause, to practice going to that neutral space and to see what's going on. Not all the things that you hear that cause this effect are going to be completely true for you, if true at all. It may just be something that really hits a hot button. But I definitely have found that wisdom will do this. And it'll cause that sort of fight or flight mechanism to kick in. And it's really important to start to deprogram that mechanism, to say, oh, this is actually something I do need to hear. And this will help me in my life. And this is something that's actually real and meaningful. Where all this other stuff about celebrities and mortgages and all these other things we run around, sports, all that stuff, it's all made up for the most part. So these are some thoughts I wanted to offer you today. As always, you can catch up with me at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. My name is Jim Tolles. Have a beautiful day.